On to our neighboring Zimbabwe, where prolonged power shortages are set to worsen after the country's power entity suspended electricity generation at the main hydro plant due to water shortages. Kariba Dam's usable storage was only 4.6% full. We're now joined by Zimbabwe's International Communications Director, Richard Mahomva. Richard, good evening to you. Thank you for your time. Firstly, give us a sense of what the status of the grid in Zimbabwe is right now and what the impact of these power cuts is likely to be.
Thank you very much for having me. I think let me quickly preface my presentation by saying that the energy base of the country is overwhelmed by the proliferation in our industries, in the mining sector and all of that, which is, of course, an outgrowth of the new economic reforms of the government of the day. So what we are seeing really, apart from the natural technical effects, is also a situation whereby the energy utility is overwhelmed by excessive energy use in terms of wheat harvest, wheat farming, in terms of mining and all of that, as a result of the investment proliferation that Zimbabwe has experienced in the past 5 years, courtesy of the new dispensation.
So what are you saying? Are you saying these power cuts are as a result of increased demand because business is growing?
That is the starting point. But of course, you cannot ignore the reality of the depletion of the water levels in Kariba. But most importantly, you'd also notice that apart from that particular challenge, there had been anticipatory policy plans, which included the development of the Wange Phase 7 and 8 supplies, which when complete are going to give about 600 megawatts of electricity inclusively. And also another anticipatory measure was enhancement of the solar dimension as an alternative energy source, and there's been an ongoing research around how solar energy could be generated to 500 megawatts. And also there is about an investment solicit for about 400 million United States dollars to finance substations in cities such as Bulawayo, in cities such as Harare. So what we are only experiencing really is a temporary crisis that is mainly influenced by the depletion of water levels, but most importantly, there was an anticipatory policy position in the form of Wange supply that is 90% complete as it stands.
Ultimately, the situation that you're facing now, at least as has been reported, is Zimbabweans are likely to face what, up to 19 hours of power cuts on a daily basis?
Well, to really give an aggregate to it, I think is something that may point us to an analysis of uncertainty. But the truth of the matter is that the crisis is there, but there are mitigatory measures that we're actually anticipating that this would happen at some point. Like I've already indicated that in the first phase of next year, you will see the completion of the Wange Phase 7 and 8 coming into play. So what we should be anticipating in very scientific terms is a situation whereby by the first quarter, end of the first quarter next year, the country would be having a surplus of about 600 megawatts of electricity.
Yes, but the point is that as things stand, I'm trying to get a picture from you about what it is that Zimbabweans are going to have to grapple with right now as a result of this shortage.
The starting point, really, we should all concede that there are those challenges. But apart from these challenges, we also need to look at other very deep-seated structural issues, because the government has been subsidizing electricity. You would notice that much of our electricity of late.
Sorry, Mr. Mahomva, sorry to come in there.
Yeah.
What are those challenges?
Yeah.
I need you to speak in plain terms because you're speaking around the issue now. Be clear. What exactly is the issue and how is it going to impact Zimbabwe? So we know that there's a shortage of electricity supply. Now, what does that mean for the citizens of the country?
What it means for the citizens of the country, I think there is need for a moral introspection across all stakeholders. And by all stakeholders, I mean citizens, the general public, number one, and the business sector. And why am I using those two constituencies? The public needs to embrace the view that the public fiscal cannot continue sustaining the subsidization of electricity, and probably there is need to embrace payment for electricity using foreign currency. And you'd recall that in 2019 we had a similar challenge in terms of our fuel issues, and we saw a situation whereby when the adoption of payment for fuel in Forex was adopted, that situation eased. So I think there is need for an inclusive advocacy framework from civil society to encourage our people to move towards a situation whereby we embrace the idea of paying for electricity in foreign currency, because if you are following trends of how people spend in Zimbabwe, we've got more imports on things like vehicles, on things like clothes. And I think the moral conscience of any ordinary citizen should guide people to think in terms of even paying for their own electricity, because if most of us can be importing cars, what can stop us from having an adopted policy where we pay in foreign currency? Because we rely mostly on imported electricity.
All right, Richard Mahomva, we'll have to leave it there. Zimbabwe's Director for International Communication.